I'm going to talk about telling stories and about digital literacies and open practices, and also about a few approaches that I think really embed these into the student experience. I'll include a comprehensive list of materials to support what I'm saying in an accompanying blog post. Which lens do you bring to this discussion? Do you take a narrow focus or a wider angle? I think it's important to acknowledge that there's a rich history that has contributed to, and to a large extent shaped, the quite disjointed way we support student literacies in our educational institutions. There are a number of descriptions we've used in the past to describe the kinds of capabilities that are now encompassed by the term digital literacies. I've been arguing about terminology in this field for 20 years, and the jury is still out. We started with library skills and research skills, ICT skills, information literacy. E-literacy came along to try and bring some things together. We've also have academic literacies, professional literacies, media literacies. One of the reasons for these different views is that within educational institutions there are several different groups that own these various literacies, each bringing their own traditions, theories and approaches. So for example, we have IT support teams focusing on tools and institutional systems. We might have librarians supporting information and research literacies. We have teachers supporting academic and subject discipline literacies. Educational developers support researchers and staff literacies. Career staff support employability skills. Who owns the literacies? Which ones do you support? How do they overlap? Which hat or hats do you wear? And how is it affected by current drivers and agendas, such as employability, the need to ensure efficiencies, the notion of graduateness, the provision of a flexible curricula for diverse student groups? Think about this within your own institution. Do they connect? And if not, should they? This is a real challenge with so many different frameworks shaping how these groups incorporate literacies and impact on how students experience both their curriculum and support services. The frameworks can be incompatible and compete with each other. They certainly don't result in coherent approaches across an institution. I'm listing just a few examples from many here: the 7 pillars of information literacy, the European and UK charters for media literacy, iCurriculum, and the QAA frameworks and benchmarks. For students to engage, I would argue that support for literacies needs to be embedded, and by that I mean linked to their curricula and their assessment, embedded in a holistic way. Developing institutional frameworks can help to overcome the disparate experience that students might get, and the process of going through this can help highlight gaps and duplication in provision. The new GISC Developing Digital Literacies programme is focusing on the development of coherent, inclusive and holistic institutional strategies and organisational approaches for developing literacies for all staff and students in UK further and higher education. It's good to see staff included in there. How confident are you about your own literacies? We all cross boundaries between learner and teacher in a world of global, open, social networking and personally owned technologies. We're increasingly sharing our own content, gathering in collective knowledge, and sometimes collaborating to produce new content. How does this contrast with our closed institutional systems? Is there more value in teaching students to use our institutional technologies and resources? Or should we be enabling them to utilise a range of open technologies and content as appropriate for their learning and wider needs? Perhaps it's a question of balance. On a personal level, I've been involved in this world for many years now, starting with IT training in the NHS, moving through to using technologies to support distance learning students with information literacies at the University of Leicester. One of the most interesting experiences was when I worked at Strathclyde University on the Did It project. This involved embedding a range of literacies into an undergraduate product design engineering module and redesigning several modules for the first 2 years to develop a staged and integrated approach to their digital literacies. One of the most rewarding aspects was that by the end of the project, the engineering academics were referring to design literacies. This term became meaningful to them and their students, but included a lot of what we might expect to see as digital literacies, such as IPR and ownership, critical evaluation of resources, communicating through social technologies, finding, creating and sharing content, reflective learning. In other words, authentic learning experiences. This experience of embedding digital literacies within the subject curricula is, I think, the most powerful way of engaging students. They don't see it as an add-on because it is incorporated into existing learning outcomes, activities and assessments. One model to enhance digital literacies that I've recent experience of has been really inspiring to me on a personal level as well as professionally. I recently took part in an open online course. Some of you may have heard of it or seen it referred to on Twitter as DS106, which is about digital storytelling. I decided to join it as one of the open students because of my involvement in the JISC UK OER programme and because I home educate my 14-year-old son. It seemed to be a great opportunity for us both to learn together. In the end, my partner also joined in and we had a family experience of the course. The course was developed by Jim Groom and Martha Burtis at the University of Mary Washington in the United States, a liberal arts university in Fredericksburg, Virginia. It's a continually evolving course and its ongoing development is supported by the model being taken on by other institutions, even to the extent of retaining the course name, DS106. A version is currently being run by Michael Branson Smith at York College in the City University of New York as part of the Communication Technology module. I've registered on that one too. It's really challenging to describe the course because it becomes such a personal experience. Each recent iteration has a narrative that helps to engage students and focus activities. Course participants include registered students taking the course at University of Mary Washington for credit and the open students from around the world. There were two things that struck me as interesting right from the start. Some participants had done the previous version of the course and were still participating, just like I do now. It was a 5-week intense experience that I refused to let go. Although it has officially ended, my family and I are still working on several things. We often have late-night conversations about new assignments and how we might do them. And the second thing was that I couldn't tell who were the tutors and staff and who were the students. The boundaries are very blurry. So everybody does assignments, anyone can create new assignments, we add tutorials in a range of formats if we introduce new software, and we comment and review on each other's work. We describe and reflect on our processes. The process is more important than the end product. So how is this one digital storytelling course one of the best examples of incorporating digital literacies that I've seen? The term digital literacies implies the use of tools, and this course did involve learning and experimenting with different technologies. This was very well supported, and a few things struck me about their approach. Open and free tools were highlighted, but if students had preferred or already purchased other tools, they could use those. Everyone was encouraged to make a tutorial if they used a new technique or new tool. This is really effective in making the course sustainable and manageable. One tool, for example, Media Streamclip, changed during the course and made one of the assignments easier. The assignment was to make animated GIFs. Here's one made by my son. The whole course was centered on and encouraged the use of open social networking tools such as blogging and Twitter, which supported the development of a community. The use of radio and internet TV added a sense of presence and gave some coherence to the course structure. Much more important than the tools for me was the value of exploring our own and others' digital identities. This is an animated GIF that I made as part of the course. It's Norma Desmond from the film Sunset Boulevard. I made this because one of my online identities is Norma Desmond. I'm Norma on Flickr. This has become such an important identity that people do call me Norma, and I love it when that happens. Even when I met my online Flickr pals at a face-to-face meet, they call me Norma. Managing digital identities is an important literacy. I think that offering students an opportunity to explore their online identities at a time when they're open to learning, reflecting on their experience, and perhaps looking to the future is really important. Getting feedback from other students is critical here too. How people respond to your persona, whether very like your offline self or completely different, can help people consider the impact of using different media to present and represent themselves. Some of the assignments can be very revealing in a personal sense. See, for example, this exquisite corpse. What is also interesting about this assignment is that it was added during the course by a student, so students get to pick from a range or make a new one. Another very interesting idea that supports sustainability, but more importantly allows choice and creativity from students. Digital storytelling is another really important aspect of digital literacies. How do you use the various media available to you to tell your story? It might be a real story, a work report, a student essay, a work of fiction or poetry. It might be totally visual or just audio or a mashup. I really love this as a way to embed digital literacies. Some final student reflections revealed sophisticated understanding of how this could be used in their future life and careers. As a sustainable model, I do think it has several key elements that we know impact on sustainability. The first is the sense of community, which is incredibly strong, with an ever-expanding set of people who will then go on to support others taking the course. Secondly, the course is a validated, accredited module, indicating institutional buy-in. And in fact, the institution has seen a huge increase of traffic and international attention through the blog posts and comments. This course was about digital literacies in the broadest sense. The course actually covered a range of literacies: collaborative teamwork in the radio shows, working to deadlines and learning to release stuff even if it's not perfect, critical literacies, film language, art and design literacies, peer feedback and support, creating and sharing open learning content. Producing a radio show with my family not only allowed me to explore aspects of storytelling, script writing, sound recording, editing and publishing with my son, but made us all laugh together every evening over a week. I will provide links to further information, but you really should hear Jim Groom talk about it. I would simply say have a go, join in the next version and see it in action. I hope to see some parts of the model taken up in the UK, despite significant differences in copyright restrictions in this country. I think approaches like this open learning and teaching practice in new ways. I also think that it works very well to support digital literacies. I expect to see the term open literacies being used a lot more in the future.